Hey everybody, this is Mr. Marshall here at Stony Lane. I want to talk to you about reading today. I'm sharing this video with you because you are probably the kind of reader who's reading books that are a little bit harder now, right? You're probably reading longer chapter books, right? They're the kind of books that you probably can't finish necessarily in one reading. It probably takes you a couple of days to finish the book. And so, what I want to talk to you about is that when you were younger and you were reading shorter and simpler books, you probably thought about something called character traits, right? A trait is a word that kind of describes a person. Okay, a trait is a word that kind of describes a person and like what they're like. Okay, and so maybe when you were younger, you read a book where a character was smart, or you read a book where a character was kind, or you read a book where a character was brave, right? And these are some of the traits that you might have thought about. Okay. But now that you're older and you're reading books that are a little more complex, right? Um, we don't want to think about them in terms of traits anymore. Some of the same words are like things that you might see your characters being like. But in reality, we all have traits. People, grown-ups and kids have traits, right? But when we think about traits, they're more of when we talk about traits like in real people, we think about how those are things that they have no control over or they can't really change. It's like a trait might be like what color hair you have, or a trait might be, that somebody is, good at basketball. Okay, do you see what I mean? It's like it's kind of not that deep. Okay, it could be that they are left-handed or right-handed. Okay, does that make sense? And when we read books that are a little bit longer or more complex, we try to think of the characters kind of more like real people, right? And real people like these traits, like you might have some of these traits, but instead of thinking of them as traits, we want to think of them more as what's called qualities. Let me tell you what the difference is. Okay, a trait is something that either you have brown hair or you don't. Okay, either you're left-handed or you aren't, right? Like there's not much talking about that. But when you're thinking about qualities, the qualities that you have are the kind that are going to change. They're going to depend on where you are or what you're doing. And so, one way that you can take these things, these words that were traits when you were reading easier books, and think about them like qualities, is to ask yourself a couple of questions. Okay. So, the questions that I like to sometimes think about are like, in what way are you that? Or in what situations are you that? Okay. So for example, if I think of a character in my book who is smart, they're not smart in every way, right? They can be smart in different ways. Or they might be kind or they might be brave, but not all the time and not in every way. So if I think about books that I know, right, I want to think about, you know, characters that are brave, right? So I know in the book James and the Giant Peach, James is brave, but he's not always brave. Real people aren't always brave. Real people aren't always kind. Real people aren't always smart in every single way, right? So like James and the Giant Peach, James is brave in what situations? Well, he certainly wasn't brave in the beginning of the book. He became brave when he was surrounded by his friends, right? The other characters in the story. Okay, so those are the situations when James is braver, right? He's not always brave. There's times when he's kind of a big chicken in the book, right? But real people are like that too, like smart, right? There's things that I'm smart about and that you're smart about, but we're not smart about everything. Like I'm smart about things about, I guess, like teaching or about certain things in history, but I'm not smart on how to fix things. I'm not really, I don't think I can do that very well yet. Okay. So, so in what way am I smart? I'm smart about things that I care about, right? I know a lot about those things, but I'm not really smart about fixing things because I haven't cared about that enough yet. Do you see what I mean? So when you're talking about the characters in your books, whether they're chapter books or even like biographies, you can think about the people, the characters in your stories in terms of qualities, not traits. And the way that you can do that is by asking yourself, well, think of the traits that you might have thought of when you were younger and ask, in what way is my character showing that trait? Or in what situations is my character showing that trait? And then you'll think more about the qualities of your character, and that'll make them feel like more and more like real people. Okay? Why don't you try that? And I'll see you next time.